Welcome into another episode of 345. I'm your boy Elza Truth, and if this is your first time tuning in, let me explain. We got 5 topics and a 3-minute clock to talk about each one. And to open up the show, we want to talk about the top 5 WNBA players going into the 2024 season. This is very fast paced, so keep up if you can. We're going to start the clock and start this list at number 5 with Jewel Lloyd. Affectionately referred to as the Gold Mamba, Gold Chain, Gold Teeth, Gold everywhere. She's coming off one of the best scoring years the league's ever seen. Not only did she take a lot of shots, she averaged 20 shots per game this past season. She scored a lot, averaging 24.7, ended up being the second highest point average in WNBA history. And it's also the first time that somebody's averaged more than 24.5 points since Diana Taurasi averaged 25 in 2006. So we really ain't seen scoring like this in a very long time. And I don't know how she only made second team all WNBA. Maybe because the team was so trash, but this upcoming year, she got some talent behind her. And all y'all teams out there that was stumping all on the Storm last year, you're gonna have to come see us now. The floor gonna be so spread for Jewel this year. If you get caught out there on that ISO, I feel bad for you. Now you gotta decide whether you want her to pick you apart, let Sky pick you apart, or let Nneka go to work on you on the block. I've already seen her be successful with other great teammates. She won 2 championships with Breanna Stewart, and I've seen her last year as a lead dog, not having really nobody on her team besides Esme Magbagor, but she went to work out there like she was playing for a championship every night. And if y'all couldn't stop her with no teammates, just imagine how much more difficult it's gonna be to stop her this coming season. She coming into her prime, so I only see her getting better. She linking up with an old teammate in Sky Diggins. Y'all know they used to run the floor together at Notre Dame. And I know a lot of y'all probably forgot about how good Skylar Diggins is, but she took Notre Dame to 2 straight Final Fours. She's literally one of the best players in the WNBA. I honestly don't care how much time she sit out, I'm always gonna rock with Sky. One of the best teammates to have in your locker room. You know she gonna fight her ass off for you. She's the only one on this team that haven't won a championship yet, so I know she coming in with the most fire. She could very well end up being the best player on this team as well, because all the shit she got to play for, she coming to get her respect back, her recognition back. She need that all-star spot back. She need that championship. She need her time back in the playoffs. And I know I ain't said that all in the right order, but you know where I'm coming from. But let's get back to Jewel Lloyd. I know she's won 2 championships already, but bringing Skylar Diggins Smith in that locker room with her, that probably gonna make her feel like she ain't won nothing again. And coming off such a bad season, that had to leave a terrible feeling on her, knowing that she was the leader. You know she gonna come back with a vengeance. And I'm sorry, I didn't initially plan to go 3 minutes for each player, so let me reset the clock and get into the number 4 player, Satou Sabally. And I know y'all heard me mention it before, Satou is my favorite player in the league right now. She just brings so much to the court that I feel like a lot of players don't bring. A true unicorn in every sense of the word. I don't feel like as many weaknesses in her game, to be honest. She's a large part of the reason this team finally made it out of the first round of the playoffs since they were the Detroit Shock. And I know she's playing with one of the best scorers in the WNBA, Arike Ogunbowale, but even the award voters selected Satou on the WNBA first team and Arike on the second team. For me, she's so good, you just add Satou, add water, and stir, and you got a championship team. But now let's get into the top 3 with the 3rd best player in the WNBA, in my opinion, Napheesa Collier. One of the most versatile players in the game, plays tough on both ends of the floor, probably got the best post game in the W. She right now in that Kevin Garnett mode where she just stuck in Minnesota on a bad team. It don't matter how good she is or what numbers she put up, that team just not good enough to get it done right now. I do appreciate that they just drafted Alisa Pili, but I honestly don't see how she gonna fit next to Napheesa Collier. I know Napheesa Collier is not ball dominant, she more than willing to share the ball with Alisa Pili, but do you plan on putting Alisa Pili at the 3 or the 4 and moving Napheesa Collier to the 5? Cause she's not a 5. If you're making either of those two change their position, then that's counterproductive. And especially after Fee coming off her best WNBA season, averaging 21.5 points. But I don't know, I honestly try my best not to question people's coaching. You see what I got me with Don Staley. But what I am gonna question is these GMs making terrible picks. Not saying the players be terrible, but they don't pick players that fit on the team. But now let's get into the next player. We got the number 2 best player in the WNBA, in my opinion, Breanna Stewart. Everywhere this woman has gone, wins have followed, awards have followed, players around her play better, coaches look like they calling the best plays in the world with her on their team. She another one of those players you just add water and stir and you're going to be competing for a championship. Breanna Stewart and the New York Liberty coming off an embarrassing defeat to the Las Vegas Aces, so I know she's coming back with something to prove. Even though she won the MVP, that ain't what it looked like in the finals, so I know she's coming back to prove that she really is the MVP. But now the number one player, top two and not two to no one's surprise, A'ja Wilson. The Defensive Player of the Year, Finals MVP, and I want to reiterate one of my earlier points that I made about A'ja Wilson. To me, she don't have the best skill set in the WNBA. She not the best dribbler, she not the best passer, she not the best scorer, but she just outworks everybody. She plays harder than everybody, and that makes her better than everybody. I don't think there's no woman out there on the court that can match her energy, period, point blank. Alright, but now let's take a moment to recap the draft. We're going to take a look at my draft board, then we're going to take a look at the actual draft board, and we're going to see where we hit or miss. For full disclosure, my first mock draft dropped December 26th, the second one dropped February 25th. And on the first one, I remember thinking, I just want to do something to put my channel on the map. I want people to respect my basketball knowledge and know that I really study the game and really love these girls. And this is literally when I first started my channel. I don't even think I had 200 subscribers at the time when I made this. But as you can see, what I'm most happy about on this first one is the number 8 pick, Alisa Pili. I was able to see Alisa Pili being drafted number 8, and that's actually where she went in the draft, so I'm very happy about that one. I'm very happy with JC Selden. I had her going to Dallas. She ended up going number 5, but I'm happy that she went to Dallas. Haley Van Lith and Paige Beckers, they decided to go back to school. Everybody else were drafted. And we take a look at the second draft board. Deja Kelly, Ayoka Lee, Tina Powell, Georgia Amore, they all went back to school, so that was kind of a wash. And when I did the second one, it was almost like when you fail the first test and you gotta redo it and you overthink yourself, so you just start adding all type of other shit and you fail. That's kind of what I did because I didn't want to put out the same exact mock draft with the same exact players. I felt like I needed to switch something up. I promise you I'm gonna be more prepared next year. I'm probably gonna do more than 2 mock drafts. And I also never want people to think that I'm trying to copy off of ESPN or that I'm looking at anything they do. No, everything I do is based on my own evaluations. I watch multiple games a day. That's all I do. I don't sit around and watch no Netflix and chill, none of that. When I get bored, I put on a women's basketball game and I do some evaluations. If I'm not financially assisting somebody, which is what I do at my normal job. But never mind all that, let's get back to the draft. On the second one, you see I had Camila Cardoso and Rickea Jackson going 3rd and 4th, so I'm happy that I changed that up and got those 2 picks right. I don't know why Dallas passed up on Aaliyah Edwards. That makes no sense to me. They could have still got JC at number 9. Another thing that I'm kind of disappointed in is that I didn't really look at the international players. So next year, I promise you I'm gonna try to get more into my international bag, and hopefully I'm gonna get some of those picks right. Another one at New York picking Marquisha Davis. I don't know if y'all remember, but if you go back and listen to maybe episode 1 or episode 2 of Chic and Ball, I said I'm keeping an eye on Ole Miss because they starting 5 seniors. So to see one of those seniors get drafted after I mentioned them back on episode 2, which was in like October of 23, I'm very happy about that too. I also did do a 2nd round mock draft. That one dropped January 10. I had Jess Carter, she got drafted. I also had Deasia Farrell on that list. She wasn't higher than what I had her going. I had Mackenzie Holmes going in the 2nd round. She ended up going in the 3rd round. All in all, minus me missing on the international players, I think I did a really nice job. And in the comments, I want y'all to give me some feedback or give me a 1 through 10 on my draft, please and thank you. And now things get even more interesting. At this time and at this point in the show, I want to start breaking down some NCAA teams. We're going to start in the Big Ten with Ohio State. And I'm going to try not to get too emotional because y'all know I'm from Cleveland, so this is my team. Very proud of my girls. They finished with a 26-6 record, 16-2 in the Big Ten. They went 1-1 versus Iowa, beating them the first time in overtime. I really enjoyed watching that game. They showed a lot of toughness. And that was actually the game where Caitlin Clark pushed JC Sheldon and she gave her the girl don't try that kind of look. They also beat teams like Tennessee. They beat Michigan, Maryland, Nebraska, who actually played for the Big Ten championship. So I don't know how they lost to Duke in the tournament as a number 2 seed. But I am happy they were able to get all the way to the number 2 seed. because that's the first time they've been ranked that high since back when Jim Foster was coaching the team in 2010. But honestly, what it boiled down to, the players on this team just choked. The same teams that I said they beat, they lost to when it mattered the most. They beat Iowa, Maryland, Nebraska early in the year. Then they lost to Iowa at the end of the regular season. They lost to Maryland in the conference tournament. And then not only did they lose to Duke in the tournament, they lost by 12 points. And Reagan Richardson, the junior, is the one that did them in. And for this team to have two players that were drafted, J.C. Sheldon and Celeste Taylor, we all know about Cody. She put up 27. She just didn't have no help. The seniors we expected to step up didn't step up. They got outshined by a sophomore. But that's pretty much the bad and ugly. Now let me get to the good parts of the team. J.C. Sheldon had an amazing year, finished on the second team as an AP All-American, first team All-Big Ten. She was also All-Defense and finished fourth in steals in the Big Ten. She really improved her game so much over the past few years. She wasn't even on people's draft boards in 2022. So to play herself into the number 5 pick in the draft, masterful work. Now let's talk about our other draft pick, Celeste Taylor. And I want to say congratulations to her. She definitely was not on many draft boards. She's bounced all around college basketball. She played 2 years at Texas, 2 years at Duke, and then her final year she played with Ohio State. And her intensity on defense also got her rewarded with the Big Ten All-Defensive Selection. She was also ACC Defensive Player of the Year last year. So she won Defensive Player of the Year in the ACC last year and in the Big Ten this year. And I really got a good feeling about her record out in the WNBA because she done went from Texas to North Carolina, Ohio State, getting drafted to Indiana. She'd have been all around the world, so I don't got no negatives about her being able to fit in. But now let's talk about Cody McMahon. She ended up being the leader down the stretch for this team, really the go-to player on offense. Her efforts this year got her named first team All-Big Ten. She is from Centerville, Ohio, and she playing for one of the top schools, so I'm hoping she don't transfer. She's a fan favorite, one of my favorite players that's ever donned the scarlet and white, and can't wait to see you back out there next year. But there you have it, my Ohio State Buckeye women. Alright, but now let's go on down to the SEC and talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide. Coach Christy Curry and the Tide finished with a record of 24-10 and went 10-6 in the SEC. This team unfortunately did not play well against the top SEC teams or ranked opponents in general. They took L's against LSU, Auburn, Tennessee. The only SEC team they really beat was Vanderbilt, so I guess that's their biggest win of the year. And the worst part about those losses is they didn't really even play those teams close. They got ran out the gym most of the time. But if you are in Alabama and you paid attention to this team, they were still really fun to watch. I mean, of course the losing is frustrating, but there's definitely some players out there that you can look forward to seeing. First off, before we start talking about the players, you got a longtime veteran coach, Christy Curry. She been coaching this game for 25 years, 11 of those consecutive with Alabama, so she know this town probably better than Nick Saban. Unlike Nick Saban, she's not won any championships, however, and she hasn't been to the Final Four in about 23 years. To be fair, this team has gotten to the NCAA tournament the past 2 years, but we definitely want to see a little bit more. As far as the players goes, unfortunately you guys are going to be losing Aaliyah Nye. She did enter her name in the transfer portal, which doesn't necessarily mean she gonna leave. She could still come back, but I'm guessing she probably gonna leave. More updates on that to come, so like and subscribe if you want to keep up with that news. But she had a remarkable season. She averaged 14 points, shot the ball at an elite level, hit 3 threes a game at 41%. Just a completely unconscious shooter, to be honest. She shoot that thing over anybody. And she a clutch shooter. Anytime they was in tight games, they was definitely running plays for Aaliyah Nye to get an open shot. So that's definitely going to be a tough blow to this already kind of depleted roster. The leader of this team, Sarah Ashley Barker, really developed into one of the stars in the SEC. The only downside to this year for her is when they went against those ranked teams like South Carolina, LSU, Auburn, Tennessee, she didn't perform well at all because they kind of just keyed in on her and there wasn't really much she can do besides take bailout shots to try to help the team. But even under all that pressure, she ended up averaging 17-6 and was named SEC All-First Team. She hasn't announced she gonna hit the transfer portal, so sounds like she gonna spend another year here going under the radar and probably gonna fall in the draft. But this team also does have a really good freshman in Essence Cody. If she can develop into the player that we all expect her to be, which is top 15 in her recruiting class, this team could probably make a little bit more noise than they did last year. I don't know how they gonna recruit players to this team or get players in the transfer portal, but they gotta do something if they want to get a little bit better, because this team been treading along the same way for years. And I hate to say it, but that's just how it is in college basketball. Unless you got a Caitlin Clark that decides she want to stay home, most of these teams gonna have a hard time keeping good players with the NIL. But there you have it, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alright, but now let's go out west to the Pac-12 and talk about UCLA. This team headed by Corey Close finished with a record of 27-7 and went 13-5 in the Pac-12. And I hate to say it, but if you ask me, this team underperformed. I don't know if it was the players that underperformed or if the coach's schemes just didn't work. But they had 2 straight losses to USC, one of them being in the Pac-12 conference tournament. And I understand USC got juju, but no way they should have lost those games. They also lost to Stanford and Utah, 2 other teams in the Pac-12. And then, of course, the heartbreaking loss to LSU in the NCAA tournament. They had that game pretty much won. I don't know how they lost that one. I think they just didn't really have no dogs on defense. This team really relied on Lauren Best to cover up all the warts they really had on defense, because they go 3 guards pretty much, but none of those guards is dogs on defense. And just how I was talking about the defensive players on Ohio State, if you want to compete, you need some dogs on that end. But on that other end of the floor, they got some dogs and some clutch shooters, even though they losing Charisma Osborne. But come on now, this is LA. They should be able to get somebody in there that can kind of shoot similar to Charisma Osborne. But whoever it is, they got an uphill battle to climb, because she's the all-time leading shooter. Congratulations to Charisma Osborne for getting drafted to the Phoenix Mercury. We wish her all the luck on her basketball journey. But UCLA is currently in great hands with Kiki Rice. With Charisma Osborne moving on, the floor gonna open up so much for Kiki Rice, she probably gonna be able to take more shots and develop into a top player in the country. From what I've seen, Kiki Rice had to play a lot of point guard and she had to distribute to everybody on the floor. So I'm hoping this gives her the opportunity to really take advantage and become more of a leader on the team. Then you got Lauren Betts, performed better than anyone could have asked coming over from Stanford. I guess she learned a lot playing behind Cam Brink. But she was so efficient on offense, 64% from the field, 9 rebounds and 2 blocks. I love how well she moved at her size. She has more lateral quickness than most bigs out there. And one thing I dislike about college coaching, it's always difficult for them to just find a go-to player. In all other sports, in all other leagues, in football, they're gonna put it in the quarterback's hands. In baseball, your best hitter's gonna come in and pinch hit or pinch run. But in college basketball specifically, they always trying to spread the ball around. No, put that thing in the best player's hands and let them just go to work and get it done. Lauren Best is taller and better than a lot of players out there. With all them shooters around her, she should have got up way more than 10 shots per game. And next year, I'm expecting a whole lot more from London Jones, because they be leaving her open a whole lot more. She kind of the sacrificial lamb out there. They would much rather leave her open for 3 than let Kiki Rice go to work or let Lauren Betts go to work. So, London Jones, I hope you in that gym working, because you already know that ball is going to be in your hand, wide open for 3, and UCLA Nation going to be expecting you to knock them down. But there you have it, UCLA, Ohio State, and Alabama. Comment a team you'd like to hear us do a recap on. Let us know your top 5 WNBA players. Just a sneak peek into one of our future shows. If you want to be a part of it, we'll give you our preseason WNBA awards, and that'll be who we think will win MVP, who we think will be most improved, Defensive Player of the Year, and all those awards. So comment who you think gonna win those awards, and we could use your comment on the show. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, because ain't nobody giving y'all full team breakdowns, player breakdowns, college and pro. If I haven't earned your like and subscribe now, I just got to keep working and hope I get it in the future. But thank you again for listening and watching. I'm Elsa True for PRNM. Talk to you on the next one.